Hello and well met. This is Layron with the Fans Grounds Academy. Happy Friday. Today we're going to take a look at the quest from the Infinite Staircase. So if you've been around the community for a while, you played Dungeons & Dragons in the past, this is essentially a compilation of older modules that have been converted into 5th edition. This isn't a new concept. As a matter of fact, this has been done before. If you're familiar with the Yawning Portal, they did kind of a similar thing, compilation. So it's basically a collection of old school adventures that were converted over for people who are into the classics and also for people who are new that haven't experienced some of these older classics. So without further ado, I'm going to go into checking out the adventure. I'm not going to go through and give away all the spoilers, but I do want to mention that they've been updated for the 5e rule set, including the graphics. A lot of the maps and those sort of things have been reworked, so I was pretty pleased to see that. And also the artwork has been changed, so it's not just a one-for-one copy. They've done a little bit of modification. So if you're familiar with Fantasy Grounds, on the right-hand side, if you have your modules loaded, you go to modules, and these are all the modules I have loaded at the moment. But this is the quest for the Infinite Staircase. And then I also have some of the supporting books here just in case. I don't probably need those to showcase this, but if you were going to build characters or maybe run the game, you might need a couple modules. You don't necessarily need all the ones I have, but when it comes to building a character, that's an important thing to have. So I'm going to go ahead and close that just so you know what's going on. And then I have the books section, which is this books icon over here on the right. So if you come down here, it'll list all the different books that you have active open in your library. And here's the D&D quest for the Infinite Staircase. So if I pop that up, that's going to bring up the books, we used to call them reference manuals. And this is essentially the whole entire book. There's also a player section on some of the other books. This one doesn't have one because it's an adventure. But if you have a book that has both player-facing content, such as backgrounds, races, that sort of thing, you'll have a separate book for that. It'll be, 2 books in one, essentially. But the Infinite Staircase is basically a nice little foray into the past. And if you're not familiar with the lore, this has been out for a while as far as the information. So what I'm telling you now is nothing new or secret or anything like that. But this Infinite Staircase was introduced during the Planescape setting. It kind of connects all the little interdimensional and the worlds together. I guess this is a way to kind of solidify their multiverse approach so that they're not shoehorned into just the Forgotten Realms. And as a matter of fact, I think the 2024 content is going to get into Greyhawk a little bit more, which is kind of exciting because they've kind of shunned away from that for a long time. So I'm glad that they're kind of revisiting that. As a matter of fact, a lot of these adventures are tied into that setting. So it kind of makes sense that they would start bringing that back up. So there are 6 different adventures in here. I'm familiar with a couple of them. So the first chapter is just basically how to get this thing kind of together, and it also kind of explains the concept of it. And then it gets into, traversing the staircase in Sigil or like a place in Sigil. It says no spell or magic item is required to access the Infinite Staircase, which is kind of interesting. Nor do its travelers have to contend with enigmatic rulers who dictate which doors open or who may pass through them. So unlike the City of Sigils, the crossroads of the multiverse, gods are free to enter and leave the Infinite Staircase as they please, though may reject it in favor of more direct methods of planar travel. So it's kind of like a kind of a super highway thing, and you get what you get. The act of traversing the staircase isn't anything more tiring than walking, and creatures can't be exhausted when traveling along it. So they made a little bit of rules for it. But basically, the first adventure in here is the Lost City. I do kind of remember that from the earlier days, and like I said, they replaced a lot of the art, so some of these things may not necessarily jive with you because you're kind of used to the older artwork. So I think that it would be nice if they had a reference index for the art from the previous content, but that adds to the size of the product. Plus, they have to get clearance from all the artists, so I get why they can't do it. But still, it would seem that it would be nice if they had some kind of visual reference, but that's okay. So these are just the adventures kind of broken down into chapters. So When a Star Falls is another one. I don't remember that one as much. I'd have to look at the original cover, but I do remember Beyond the Crystal Cave. I remember playing that one. And Pharaoh is actually one of my all-time favorites. So I want to say, the Ravenloft, Pharaoh, what was the other? Against the Giants, Descent in the Depths. Those are the classics that I'm familiar with that I remember. And of course, the Dragonlance series. Lost Cavern of Sojkan, they put out a quick version of that earlier this year to get people kind of excited about this, and then also to give them a chance to play in a tournament. So there's some tournament play there. And then they redid the Expedition of the Barrier Peaks. Now, this has been done. I think Goodman Games and a couple other people have done this. I'd like to compare the two and see what the quality is like comparatively. So I maybe do that in another video. But I like the idea that they've gone back and revisited these. And I'm going to show you a couple maps. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but just for instance, the Pharaoh is like my favorite adventure, so I'll go ahead and use this one. And when you go through this and you look at the new art, I'm really digging the new art, but I kind of miss the old art only because I don't have a way to identify where I'm at in the adventure. Kind of got it memorized from the old school content. So they have a way to set this adventure. So if you want to go to the Dragonlance setting and run this adventure, it takes place in the cursed region within the Plains of Dust. If you do it in Eberron, the long-lost kingdom of Bakar, there's an occupied area, a portion of the Blade Desert that's now uninhabitable, so that you can run from there. And in Greyhawk, the Desert of Desolation might be another name for the Bright Desert. So there's different ways that you can, tie this into other settings. Let's see, what else do we have? So here's some adventure hooks. So some of these are like this one, the Exiled is like the original one. You're basically committed to a crime. You've earned kind of like the anger of a powerful figure, and you're sent and exiled to the Desert of Desolation as punishment. So you're kind of left in the middle of the desert with no food or water. You kind of have to survive type thing. The newer thing they added was characters have heard tales of magical river in this region whose waters foster bountiful crops and heal those who drink from it. So they kind of added another adventure hook potentially, and you can obviously make up your own. I have my own in mind, but this is a good start anyways. I like the second one because it kind of gives you another opportunity to play without being thrown in the middle of the desert, in a deadly situation. That's very Gygaxian from the old days, so if you guys are used to that, that's cool. Let's see. So then you start getting into the actual adventure, and it gets into, like the desert heat, how to start the adventure, some encounters, and it looks like they've made a encounter table here, which is kind of cool. And then there are some really nice maps that come with this. So if you are into maps, they did update these. So these are our newly reimagined maps for this adventure. I do like the old kind of blue and white classic ones, but this is also neat that they went back, revisited, and made the new maps. So that's cool. I think that all in all, the product's decent, and I would give it at least a 6.5, if not more, maybe 7. Zacchaeus did a really good job getting this out. There was a little bit of a miscommunication there, and that's why it was delayed. But they got it knocked out really fast. I mean, they had it like on a Friday, and he had it done in less than a week. So it was a phenomenal project, because this thing's almost 300 pages. So for him to knock this out that quick, he has to have a really good process for that. And if you guys are making content, you know what I'm talking about. So this is not an easy thing to do. You got 6 adventures packed into one in almost 300 pages, and he did this in less than a week. That's impressive. So my hat's off to Zacchaeus for knocking this out. But there's some really neat looking maps in here that I really like. And I think that having this adventure presented for the newer generations is kind of cool. So, if you weren't around during the days of the classic D&D, this is kind of a way to visit some of those in a way. There's a map in here, this maze of mist. So when you click on this, you get to this kind of weird. This is the play map essentially. And when you unlock this, you'll notice that it probably has an effect on here. So it's basically this map. It has the DM labels on one layer. So if you're new to Fantasy Grounds or you used to play some of the older ones, if you unlock this, you'll see that there's the maze of mist. There's some color adjustment there that was placed so that it can emulate the fact that the caves, or in this case the dungeon, is filled with this red mist. So that's kind of a neat little thing there. And then this layer here, the DM layer, are all the labels and pins, so the players won't see that. So that's a nice touch. Good job on that. And this layer thing for the colors, I mean, you can turn that off. You don't have to have that on the whole time, but it's there to represent that the mists are filling up the area, and it kind of obscures vision, if I remember right. And it's part of like a trap, or like a kind of like a hindrance. And then it kind of makes it so where you can even adjust this. So if you don't like the bright red color, it kind of says it's like a orangish, reddish, kind of rusty color. So if you have to, you can always go in and select this and go to effects. And then you can kind of back off on the red a little bit, maybe come up a touch with the green, kind of make it more of an orangish color, however you want to do it. Maybe make it a touch more brighter. But nonetheless, if you don't want that on there, you can just turn it off. So that's something that you'll learn in Fantasy Grounds, that they'll have different. And then here's the mist. So this is just a way that you can kind of get an idea of what this is all about. And the mist is more than likely an effect. Yeah, it's a mist effect. So this being that it's underneath the layer here of the colors would just be a really slight movement in the map. So if you're not certain how this works, you'll get a chance to check it out as you play through. So this is just a nice little touch that Zacchaeus put on there to give it a little bit more realism and to help it bring that part of the story out. Because before, it's obviously theater of the mind. You didn't really have a way to show it, but this is a good way to show that. So you can make adjustments if you need to. I think he did a fine job on that. So I was pretty impressed when I opened this map up, because it's one of my favorite maps. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So, and then also in this, it's have it to where, one square basically is 10 feet. So the scale is a little bit different. And then you'll kind of get used to that. So if you go to the grid and you go to this multiplier, it'll have this, multiplier here, but then you'll notice that the grid size on here is only 31 by 31.8 because this map is probably huge. So he had to scale it for that. But that's just kind of, something that kind of comes with the territory with most virtual tabletops is the bigger the maps, the more they have to mess with the scale. And it can get pretty big and unwieldy. But this isn't too bad. This isn't like Dungeons of the Mad Mage where it's like 4 times the size. All right, so that's basically in a nutshell, that's what you're getting. So you're getting 6 adventures, and then the intro, getting new artwork, new maps. The maps have been updated. I'm going to look at I want to take a look at Beyond the Crystal Cave. So I kind of remember it, but see, without the old artwork, it's hard for me to tell. But see, like here's the Cave of Echoes, and that's been added. And it looks a lot nicer. I kind of like the color. That's pretty neat, actually. And then it talks about the features of the cave. Let's take a look at When the Star Falls. I don't remember this, but it features Darrow, which I think is kind of cool. Yeah, so, I mean, the maps have all been updated. So that's a nice thing. So this is like the original image, but when you click on it, you go to the modified Fantasy Grounds version of it. And when you unlock these, you'll find the DM layer on top, which is only visible to the DM. That's why this GM only thing is on. And then you have your pins, which players can't see. So this is nice. This is a really nice way to make this kind of come alive. And then he put some water in here. I'm not certain where that actually is. Probably up in here, because it's probably partially, yeah, here's some water stuff. So this is probably just an area that has been submerged. And then you can actually change the water effect if you want a little bit. And you can make it come alive. Yep. So anyways, this is a really nice job by Zacchaeus. I went out and picked it up. I mean, I wasn't like, right on it when it came out, but I know a lot of people were kind of anticipating it. There's a few people asking about it, and like I said, there was a little delay there because there's a little miscommunication. Doug explained that in the Discord, and they've talked about it on the forum. So if it's something that bothered you, that problem was resolved, and hopefully in the future they won't have the same issues. But this is basically a really cool classic remake type thing. Some of the, like I said, the Pharaoh is probably out of this group. I'd say it's probably my favorite. Although I do like the Expedition to the Barrier Peaks and Lost Caverns of Sojkant. Those are probably my second favorite. I don't remember When a Star Falls, and I don't remember the Lost City as much. I do remember seeing the cover. It's been so long since I played these that I have to go back and read them to understand what it is. But this is a really neat rendition of the older classics, and I like that they went ahead and got some new artwork. And I'm thinking they may not have had clearance to use all the old art, so maybe they had to go in and update it. But nonetheless, I mean, it's adapted well. He got it out in record time. So, we only lost a couple weeks of the release date on it. So it's not too bad. And honestly, I think this is going to be the last major adventure we're going to see for a while, because now from here on out, next month, matter of fact, they're going to start releasing the 2024 content. So we'll see what happens there. But I wanted to take a look at a stat block while I'm here and just kind of see what we're seeing there. So I'm going to filter out to this adventure. And let's take a look at something that's not as common. Okay, here's the Android. So the stat blocks that you're used to having before are going to be very similar. These are going to be set up according to the new 2024. So if you've been using products after Tasha's, you'll already start seeing little bits and pieces of the changes that are coming. I want to check out this demon here, see what they did with this. So they put all the traits up here. This is mostly like, different traits that would come up with your NPCs, but then your multi-attacks, your physical stuff, spells, and all that will be down in actions. So not very much changes there, but there are some like abilities or maybe like a quick action that we don't normally see, and we'll get that when we get the monster manual and the new player's handbook. But I'm just kind of looking at the differences in the stat block, and there's not really a whole lot of difference. I think you won't notice most of it. I mean, the only time I ever notice is when we have a spellcaster, and that's kind of rare changes. But this one has a spellcasting trait in the traits area, but some stat blocks you'll find those will be in the actions area. And you can see there's the spells are parsed here, but if you see it in one spot or the other, it just depends on when the content was made. So this may have been made before they decided to go with a different stat block. So this thing's been in production for a while, so who knows. But that just kind of give you an idea, a little heads up on what to expect. And a lot of this is going to be pretty much what you've been used to. Like I said, if you had the Yawning Portal, you kind of get the concept of it. I like the idea that we're able to go back and play and do some nostalgia there. So if you guys are someone who or people or group that is been around for a while, or you want to experience the older modules is a good way to do it through the 5e rule set. Or you can go back to the classics, because Fantasy Grounds supports the 1st and 2nd edition. So that's something that you may want to take a look at, and maybe run both just as a comparison, see what they're like differently and what's the same. So anyways, folks, I just wanted to kind of give you a quick kind of look through. I didn't want to give away too many spoilers. I mean, I'm just showing you that the maps have been updated, and that the artwork and that sort of stuff has been kind of regurgitated, or not regurgitated, but redone. And I don't know if that was because they couldn't get the original, or if they just wanted to refreshen it, or both. So you guys take care, have a good weekend, happy Friday, and I'll see you guys around next time.